Hello everybody. Good evening, and welcome to this session about Microsoft 365. And tonight, mainly, we are going to discuss about Word and how to create an invoice inside Word. All right, so just confirming we have things working. Yes, okay. All right, so quick presentation. Okay, my name is David Gerard, and I am a Microsoft certified trainer, certified business intelligence, data analytics, and passionate about all Microsoft technologies, and mainly what I would call Office IT technologies. So technologies that are used every day by almost everybody in the office. Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and any other tools that are present inside the family of Microsoft 365 application. And usually, okay, users don't know exactly how to use the different tools that are existing, and they don't know how to leverage their capabilities. There is a rich collection of tools that are existing, and we see here those applications that come with Microsoft Office 365. The most common ones are well, Excel, which is used for a very long time by a lot of people, Word, then we have of course Outlook, but there are many other applications that people don't especially know. So Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, we have projects, Sway, Whiteboard, and you might be wondering, what are those applications doing exactly? What can we do with them? How can they help us in our business? And how can we improve our productivity and proficiency at the workplace? So, well, that group is specially for that. Microsoft 365 Meetup group is there to help you better understand how to use those different applications. So today, as I was mentioning, we are going to focus on Word, and actually, let's see if we can connect to the Meetup group. Just meetup.com. So we have also a group in WhatsApp in which we participate and answer questions, and mainly about Excel. But quite often users are asking questions about how to do this, how to do that. And recently we had a question about invoicing. Quite often people tend to do their invoices or receipts within Excel. And I want to show you that it's possible to do it in Word, and actually it's even much better in Word than in Excel. Much more convenient because it contains usually much more text that need to be properly formatted, and Word is very good for that. That's the main purpose for that application. So actually we have three different groups. Today we are about Microsoft 365 Office Productivity Uganda group, in which we discuss the use of the different applications that are part of the family of Microsoft 365. So we had someone who asked a question saying, I kindly need tips on how to create an invoice. And as I said, most people would think, oh, let's do it in Excel. So, okay, we are going to see we can do it in Word, and I will defend the idea that it's way much better in Word and it should stay in Word. Things are good in Excel, but other things are very good in Word. And quite often, okay, you would store your data in Excel unless you have the capacity of having a real database, a server to store it, and everything. Okay, it can be a little bit costly. You need also some expertise, of course, to create it, manage it, and update it regularly. So you know, after all, Excel remains very powerful, simple to use, and very efficient. And you can connect Word to Excel to obtain data stored in Excel inside Word. So if you wanted to create um, an invoice based on existing clients and existing transactions, well, you could do it very well in Word, connecting it to Excel and getting those data with Excel. So let's go and have a look at Word document. So hold on a second. I see. Okay, I look very dark. I'm going to put the light. You know, for the camera, at least it might help a little bit to see me a bit better. All right. So let's jump into Word and let's have a look a little bit how we can create that invoice. And we are going to take the example of an invoice I created some time ago, in which we have fields that are available, form fields, or so we have different areas in this document that can be filled by the user. Some areas are protected and can't be accessed and modified. So this text, the company name and address can't be accessed. I can click on it. It doesn't let me select it or even change it. It's the same for the logo. It's the same for the number of the invoice. Well, apparently I can select that, but I cannot move it, or I cannot resize it. I cannot do anything. So the number of the invoice, for instance, it's not accessible, and we can imagine that legally speaking, we shouldn't be able to modify the invoice number. I think, okay, the invoice number should be automatic and not modifiable for auditing purpose and traceability. The number 1, the number 2 should be remaining number 1 and number 2, such that, okay, over time we can always trace back an invoice number and understand the status when an invoice is cancelled. That number should remain as, so if it is number 102 and this invoice is cancelled, well, the 102 number shouldn't be reused for something else. It should still be existing, but identified as cancelled invoice number. So that's why this number is not accessible, and actually it's generated automatically in that very invoice template. Some fields are accessible. We can distinguish them because they are grayish actually, and so in those fields we can clearly select them, or at least place our cursor inside and start typing inside. The very first field that exists inside this is the currency. So we can choose in which currency we want to invoice our client. So we have USD and UGX. So again, this is really targeting the Ugandan market or East Africa in general, but this one was made for Uganda, so it has UGX. We could place the currency that we want. So if I choose UGX, I can start typing the company name, okay, name, all right, whatever, and I validate. Note that as soon as I validate, okay, we'll see it again later, I will attract your attention to that, but the field formats the text automatically as well with proper case, so an uppercase character at the start of each word within that field. So that's a little automation that we have put in place. Then, okay, we have the date, which, okay, is 30 of, today is the 30th of October 2020. So here also the format is going to be created automatically. So the field is going to format the date automatically once I validate that field with the tab key on my keyboard. So I use quite often my keyboard because I find it very useful and much more practical than using the mouse and navigating with the mouse. So using the tab key on my keyboard, I'm going to exit that field and move to the next field available. As soon as I move out, well, we can see that that date is now formatted as a date. So the same as in Excel, when we enter a date, we should enter it correctly, not mixing numbers and letters as I can see sometimes. If I go back and I put, okay, the 30th with the TH, and okay, the 10th, and then the 20, I'm not sure it's going to work correctly. Word might not recognize that date as a proper date because we have introduced some additional characters that are letters, which are might create a problem. So I validate, and well, we can see, okay, it didn't work. Okay, the date is not valid. So we really need to enter the date correctly inside. And it's the same principle as in Excel. Okay, the way you would enter a date in Excel is the same. You would enter a date correctly inside Word. And a date is a very specific type of data that contains different components or date parts identified as days, components or date parts identified as days, month, year, but from which date we can also extract additional information like the week number, like the quarter, or eventually the semester, and etc. We can compute those information. And a date can be used also to subtract a date from a date, or add a certain number of days on that date. Let's say, okay, just in that invoice, we have the date in which that invoice has been issued, but usually when we invoice an organization, we expect to be paid for that invoice, and maybe we want to place the information below the invoice that the client need to pay within 30 days after being invoiced, and we want to maybe precise that date. So we want to be able to add 30 to that very date, and that's possible as long as a date is properly formatted as a date and it is recognized by the system as a date. So let's correct that. It's important to enter just the recorded information, and Word or Excel, if you are in Excel, is going to do the work for us to format it correctly with a different format that we have selected before. So we will see that because we are going to construct also something like that. So now I validate. I'm going to exit that field using the tab key on my keyboard and move to the next field available, which is this one. Okay, so I validate, and now Word has accepted that date. We can clearly see, okay, the 30-oct-20, and now we are in the next field. And well, that's a properly formatted date that Word recognizes and has formatted for readability purpose. So now we can enter our product. Okay, nothing very specific in there. Again, I validate with the tab key. It's very easy and convenient to move from one field to another field. Then here I can enter the quantity, and note now what's gonna happen in the amount column and the totals at the bottom. Currently, those fields are at 0. We have no value. But as soon as I'm going to exit that field and validate it, moving to the next field available, then Word is going to compute those values. We are going to have the total here, the total of all the different quantities, and well, the amount is going to be displayed when both the quantity and the unit cost are going to be filled as well. So if one of those is at 0, then the amount remains at 0. Okay, so that's an evaluation that I've put in place also in that invoice template. So I value in that invoice template. So I validate. Look at this here, total below. Boom. As soon as I validate, this field is computed automatically. Okay, I cannot access it, I cannot change it, I cannot manually inside. This helps avoiding human errors or mistakes. Okay, if I were to compute all the different figures here, and then I revise my invoice and I change the value because the client has decided, okay, I don't want 20, I want 15, I would need to manually change that figure if I were to manually input everything, which increases the risk, of course, for those for that. Okay, and we want to avoid the risk and miscalculation. Okay, so we want to automate as much as possible the different fields. All right, we have moved 25,000 shillings. Oh, I've clicked this one. Right, okay. So 25,000 shillings. Now, again, look at what we have here, 0, 0. Now I'm going to validate, and as soon as I'm going to validate, so I will use again the tab key. My cursor is going to move to the next field available, which is boop, the new product here, this field. So this is going to be computed automatically, and the total at the bottom is going to be computed automatically as well. I validate, and boom, we have it. The quantity 20 times 25,000 makes 500,000, which is properly computed. Again, we avoid mistakes in calculation and correction, so it's there, automatic, and the bottom as well. Okay, product 2, we create it, hopla, tabulation to navigate to the next field available, quantity, let's say 40, I have for 42,000 shillings, or it's 420, let's leave it like that. We validate. This is computed automatically, 16,800 million, 16,800,000. This is computed by the sum of all the things. My total quantity has been updated also to show now 60, which is the total of 20 and 40. I add another product. Okay, number 3, the quantity is gonna be 15, the amount is gonna be 650. I validate with the tab key, and up it is computed. So we have it. Okay, so now you might be wondering, okay, all good, but how do we create an invoice? How can we get it done? So that's what we are going to review. Let's have a look behind all those fields. What do we have? So we need to remove the protection that has been applied on that document. That's why we cannot access those fields, okay, because it's protected. So if we remove the protection, then we can access those fields. Now we can access, okay. So it's a simple protection to have the field work as well. So we can, to reveal fields codes, as we call them, we need to use keyboard shortcut Alt F9, if I remember correctly. Alt F9 on our keyboard to reveal all the different form fields and formulas, functions that we have used within that template to create our document. So we have a form drop-down that has been inserted here, a form text, then we have, okay, a certain a form field which actually pick the information from document property, which is, okay, the short name is doc property. So this information picks values inside the doc property of the document, and it looks for the property invnum, which stands for invoice number, of course. So let's have a look. Okay, if you want to access the document property, you would go in the home tab, and then you look at option. Is it option? Maybe not option, actually, I made a mistake. We look at info. We have the properties here. So info, properties, and we need to look at all the properties, or advanced either. Okay, rather it's advanced properties. Advanced properties, and we need to go inside a custom properties of the advanced properties dialog box inside the info of the document. And here we have our number, inv number, and currently the value is 102, and this is okay. This doesn't need to be accessed or managed by the user because this is automatically incremented, and for that, okay, it definitely requires a macro to update it. Okay, so this would require a macro, but today we are not going to talk about VBA macro. We are going to keep it simple. Okay, not with that, but that's what I wanted to show you, that the invnum property invoice number is found here, type number with the number 1. So that's how it is. We can create different custom properties in our document. So form text, okay, a specific form field here that collect the information from dot property. A form text as well, so it's the same as this one. Another one here, another one here, another one here. All those are the same, form text, form text. Here we have a formula that goes and pick the actually it calculates the product, so which is the multiplication of two values from the left. So in Word, okay, we can create functions that are going to aggregate data from left. We can, those are keywords that we can use. We can use left, right, above, below. I've never used below, so I don't know if it really exists, but the most common one, okay, for us, because we read from left to right and we usually compute things mostly on the left side and we show the result on the right side, it's pretty common, so we use the product left. Well, I think it exists, okay, I mean right and below, but okay, I've never used them. So anyway, product left to multiply the values from the left, and even though I have well, the left would be all that actually, so all that is what's on the left of this cell, but because this is a text, it's ignored, and Word calculates just those two values which are numbers, so the text is ignored. Okay, it's even though the left is all that, all the three different columns on the left, that being text, it's being ignored. Okay, so, and actually, okay, there is also a formatting formula, so with an if function, if the currency, because okay, we have here in that field the drop down UGX and USD. So if I were to use USD, actually, it would display the formatting differently. So for UGX, well, we would use the UGX extension currency, and the formatting, okay, we don't need the decimals. And for the USD, well, USD is pretty common to have cents. So if we were to invoice in USD, we would give place for cents. So that's why, okay, we have the .00 just in case it is USD. Otherwise, it would display as without the decimal, and always with 1000 separator. So the if function works pretty similarly to what we can have in Excel. Okay, so if you are familiar already with what you have in Excel, you should be able to construct if functions inside Word as well. It's pretty much similar. And the product function, well, it's the same as the product function in Excel as well. Okay, it's very similar. And if we have product, you can imagine that you have also the sum function, which actually we should have down below here for the total. Sum, here it is, yeah, that's the sum function. Okay, so here we have the sum function with the keyword above. So we are summing everything what's above, or anything what's above. And okay, the entire field is this one. That's the entire field. Okay, it starts up there to down. That's why we had the two brackets. I was a bit confused at the beginning because we had the two curly brackets at the end, for which we find the starting brackets here. Okay, so in the first page of it. So we have some custom format first, which is being applied. Again, if we have the if we chose within the drop down USD, then okay, we would display USD, otherwise we would display UGX here. Okay, so if the currency, well, that field is actually called currency. So if I right click on it, I look at the properties, the bookmark name or the name for that field is called the currency. So that's why we refer to it, that we use the refer syntax. So we refer to the currency name or bookmark, we evaluate it against the USD, and that's what the if does. If the currency is equal to USD, then we display USD. Otherwise, if it is not USD, then we display UGX. Okay, so that's what the if function does. And then we have the sum of all what's above, and again an if function to evaluate, okay, if we should display the decimals or not display the decimals. So that's what we have here. And here we have some extra text actually to normally display the numbers into text, but I'm not sure it has worked and it displayed as we could have expected. So well, that's okay. That becomes certainly a little bit more complex, okay, but it's basically just some if functions embedded together, yeah, with okay, some evaluation to break down the number, because Excel as well, Word has some limitation to display numbers using the special switch card text, which normally automatically display numbers into text, and it has some limitations. So for big numbers in millions, you need to basically use that syntax and functions inside. So anyway, we could just copy paste that, you know, it's okay. Let's go back to our original Alt F9. So to go back, I didn't go back. Alt F9, okay, to go back to what we have. So actually, okay, here normally I should have some values displayed in text. Okay, did not display that. Okay, anyway, maybe something need to be fixed here. So now let's recreate that in our document. So okay, let's do something. Okay, Control C to copy everything, Control N to create a new document, Control V to copy everything. Now we are going to remove that and we are going to recreate them from scratch. At least we have the place where we can create those fields. Okay, the same structure. So we have our invoice. So we want to place some fields inside to allow the user to enter information inside, right? So here we have seen before we had some text fields, a drop down here, just in case, okay, we have an invoice in USD or in dollar. For this one, okay, just to keep it simple, we might not use the drop down. I can show you how it works, but we'll keep it simple. We'll be using just the basic fields. There is already quite a lot to do with that. So text fields in a few areas, okay, that we need to put in place. And actually, okay, the text field is going to be the most important of all the different fields. So in the ribbon, so you need to go to the developer tab, and you need to make sure the developer tab is activated in your ribbon. If you don't see it, you need to right click in your ribbon, you choose customize the ribbon, click on that. You will display the customize the ribbon dialog box or options, I think it is. Just it's taking a bit time to display, so it's coming. Here it is. Okay, the word options, so in which you can change all options for your Word application. So customize the ribbon, and we just need to make sure that among the different tabs that are available, you have the developer tab which is selected. Okay. Okay, when you have the developer tab selected, okay, make sure you have it. You click OK, and now you will see it inside your ribbon. Developer will appear there. So what we are going to use is within the different controls. What we can do is that we can click on design mode. It's not obligatory, it works well without, but okay, it's a good practice certainly to switch to design mode to create your document, or to design your document. Okay, so we have the most modern form fields that are available here, but those one actually you can't perform calculation with those fields. So they are very good. There is a calendar, there is a drop down, a combo box, different things, drop down list, a checkbox. I mean, they're pretty good, but you can't use them to perform calculation on exit of that. So we need to use legacy forms. When you click on that little suitcase with where that little toolbox, we have access to the legacy tools, and mainly what we need, the legacy forms. And the one that we most use is the text form field, this one. That's mainly pretty much it that we need. If we were to use the drop down form field, we would choose this one. Okay, we'll see at the end if we still have a bit time, but we are going to concentrate on this one and really explore it to its full potential. So let's click on that. Okay, I am here in the quantity. So I have inserted that field. Okay, you might not see it because it's gray over gray, so it might be a bit confusing, but it's there. So what I need to do with that is just copy paste it. It's as simple as that. We can Control C, copy, and paste it here, and paste it here, and paste it here. Okay, in all the different lines that we want to give the user the possibility to type something. So quantity, our user should be able to enter value, so we can copy that field everywhere. Until now, pretty simple. Okay, and here I don't need this one. Okay, and for the date as well, we need a form field, invoice number. Well, okay, we are not going right now to automate that invoice number again. We are going to keep it simple. You would need to enter it manually. Okay, that's fine. Okay, there might be other ways also you could generate it and restrict access to that, but let's do step by step. Make sure that already this knowledge is well understood. Okay, so we didn't spend much time on formatting the document. Those could be some basic as well. This is structure inside a table, and I have hidden the borders of that. Okay, this is some simple text aligned to the left, and here we have a picture which is in front of text, so it moves on top of the text. It's not inline text. Okay, so that's important. Then we have a little table structure here, very little. Okay, just one cell. And actually, okay, maybe we could reveal the hidden character, so that gives an idea of actually this one is a table within a table. Okay, so we have our all our table here with transparent borders. Okay, and this one, this small invoice, is just a table within a table. Okay, I did that a long time ago, but and I think this is the same. It's a small table within the cell of the table here. So it's a table within a table. Okay, that's how I did that the day I did that. So it's okay. So here we have another table structure for which, okay, all borders have been hidden unless the inner borders to create a certain structure to hold our information. Okay, so now we forgot we need also a field here to calculate, okay, the total quantity and the total quantity over there. We will see. Okay, I'm not certain. Okay, the form field should be used for that. Actually, for other template I use something else. We'll see. Okay, let's first do step by step. We'll replace it after. So here, form field. So if you want to customize that and change the properties of that form field, we need to select that field, right click on it, and then we can choose properties from the contextual menu that displays. Otherwise, from the developer tab also we could choose properties from the ribbon developer tab. Within the controls group we have access to the properties that we can click. It does the same. If I click on that, I have access to the text form field option dialog box, and if I right click on my field, which I usually prefer because I find it faster and it's more efficient, so I click on properties and I have the same. Okay, so here within the text form field options dialog box, I can choose the different properties of that text form. So I can choose whether the data type inside that field should be regular text, number, date, current time, and or a calculation. So actually, okay, we might need a calculation for that field, we might need a date for that field, a number for that field, and text for all the rest, most probably, right? And of course, those fields should be numbers as well. Okay, we cannot accept text in quantity, we cannot accept text in unit cost, and we need to make sure that if we want to have the calculation operating correctly, we shouldn't have any text coming to disturb us, so it should be only numbers. We shouldn't have a UGX 100,000 or something like that, which is quite often disturbing when there is a mix of data types. So in our first field here, that's the name of the company we are invoicing, so it should be regular text. The default text, well, in that case we don't need any specific default text, otherwise it wouldn't make sense much. Maximum length, well, okay, we don't need to limit the length in particular. The text format, that's where we can choose if we want the text to be formatted as uppercase, lowercase, first capital, or title case. So if we have a sentence, multiple words, first capital will capitalize the first letter of that sentence, and if we use title case, it will capitalize each letter of each word, what I had in the previous invoice. I hope I'm not mistaken with that. And of course, uppercase is for all uppercase, lowercase is for all characters lowercase. Okay, so let's choose title case, and I hope I'm not making any mistake. Okay, and then we have, okay, macros that I run on entry of that field or on exit of that field. Well, in this document I don't have any macros, so they are empty, and again we are going to keep this demonstration relatively simple, so we are not going to interact with macros. But if we had macros, that's where we could add interactivity with our fields by adding macro on entry of that field or on exit of that field. Bookmark is the name that we want to give to that field. So, well, in that case, because it's the company name that we want to have in that field, we are going to name that bookmark, okay, company name. Usually, okay, like in Excel also, when we talked about named ranges, those names or bookmark don't accept spaces in between the name. So if I had a space here, I'm not sure if it would work. don't think it will work. You see the bookmark name is not valid, okay, because it has a space inside. So eventually we could use, okay, underscore or hyphen, this hyphen, or no space at all, and then, okay, we distinguish the different words with a capital letter at the beginning of it. So let's use an underscore and as a bookmark name, and we can validate that, and it works. Okay, so no space. Let's go back to the properties. We have the possibility also to make it enable or disable. So if I wanted to disable that field, okay, I could just click on this checkbox to disable it. But in that case, we need it enabled. And functionality is going to be useful for quantity and unit because we want to perform calculation on exit of that field. So we want calculation to be processed on exit of the quantity and the unit cost. So that checkbox will be very important and useful when being in those fields. All right. So I have set up my field. Okay. So I can click on OK, and we are fine with that. So number here, again, we won't make it automatic this number. You will need to fill it manually, but just know, okay, there are ways of automating it and restricting access to that and securing it. So we are going to restrict the type of information that we want to number, and the maximum length, okay, we don't want especially to restrict it, okay. And the number format, well, we have different format options that are available. We can choose this one here. Those other format number will be very useful for currency if you want to display the decimals, and if you want to display the values with 1,000 separator, those two will be used for currencies, for example. And we have extra formatting for percentages if you want it as well. So again, we have the same type of properties as we have seen before. We can quickly move forward to the next. We don't especially need a default number. We can, or maybe just 0 if we want, and that's what displays inside, but it still requires the input from the user, definitely. Then we have the date, date field. So again, we set, sorry, we select that field, right click on that field, and we select properties. We want to restrict it to a certain date, and we want the format of that date being, so we have different options available. If there is not the option that I want inside here, I can also create it myself. So we have, well, MMM for month, and when there are 4 M's, it's for the name of the month in full. D for the day, and 1 character represent the day number within the month without the leading 0. Double D would be with the leading 0. Then we have Y for the year. So, well, if I don't especially see what I want to have the leading 0 as well to be displayed, such that, okay, if we are the 2nd of November 2020, it would display 02 of Nov 20. Okay, so, well, just to say, we can customize it also. I picked one existing format, and then I added myself I altered it, okay, to represent what I want. So we can customize it also the way we want. Huh? All right, so we are going to restrict that field to a date. We have chosen the type to be a date, and the format, okay, it has disappeared again. Okay, so I'm going to select this one and add a D to the date. Okay, and I validate that. Okay, good. So now we have our date, which is here. Then all those fields are text field. So I can right click on it. Well, on this one I'm not going to change so much, because anyway it's regular text, Do we want to format it specially? Well, it's up to developer really. We could want to first capital letter for everything, so we can right click on it, on each, look at the properties, confirm. Okay, by default it's always regular text, so we don't need to change that. First capital, validate, select our next field, properties, first capital, validate. We don't need, well, we could give it a bookmark name as well, but okay, we will need to give it, okay, like product line 1, product line 2, product line 3, and we might not need to refer them in other fields. So the bookmark name is not obligatory. Okay, I filled it for this one, but it doesn't really matter in that case. It's not obligatory. We can leave it empty. And usually, okay, you fill that bookmark name if you intend to use the field value inside another field, or if you want to reuse it somewhere, so you can reference it with its name. But in that case, if you don't want to reuse the product name in other location of your document, we don't need to precise that. So by default, it's always regular text. What we just need to do is to make sure, okay, that text is formatted correctly on exit, such that, okay, it looks a bit better and all uniform. And that's all what we need. Okay, so properties, no, it's that field. We want first capital, and the last one is this one. Right click, properties, choose the text format as first capital and validate. Very good. So now we are arriving at the quantity. Quantity, we right click, choose property, and we choose, okay, number, and we choose format with 10, which will force display of 10 at least. Okay. Bookmark, here it got a bookmark name, text1, which okay, we don't especially want. Yes, maybe no. Good question, because there are different ways of computing here the value. So we could use the function sum left, but if you use a form field, how will it go? Actually, I've never used the form field. I usually use other type of fields. Okay, let's have a look. We can always come back later. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to right click on each of those and try and format them. I'm just going to copy this one and paste for those one to replace them. Okay, this will go faster. Hopla. And I double click on it to access it and to confirm that it has been registered as a number type field, which is the case. So it's very good. So I can do the same for this one. I double click on it, it's regular text, Control V to paste, double click, and now it's number. Okay, so it has done the work correctly. Now, if I want this field, what I need to do, something important, what I need to do, double click to access it, so that's another way of accessing it, right click property, or eventually double click on it as well works, okay? What we need to do for that field is calculate on exit. We want that field, on exit of that field, it triggers calculation in another field, and well, it will trigger the calculation in that amount field, which will be the product of quantity and unit cost, or unit cost time quantity. Okay. So, okay, calculate on exit, that's very important, and we can repeat what I did before. Control C, because I forgot to do that. Control V, select, Control V, click, select, Control V, click, select, Control V. Okay, confirm, calculate on exit. Good. Can do the same for this one. Okay, so Control V, but this one, as it is unit cost, I want to display the format slightly differently. I want to have 1000 separators, so each 1000 separated by a comma. so I want to use this format instead. Okay, so Control C and Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V, and Control V. Double click this one, I confirm it's a number type, format is correct, calculate on exit is correct as well, no default value, that's fine, all good, very good. Okay, let's find out how we can create that field which should sum the values above. So we would use a different type of field, which is a calculation. The expression should be, and I hope it works in that case, okay, sum. We can use the special keyword as I've explained before, which is above. So you don't have that equivalent in Excel because you can easily reference cells references in Excel. In Word, it works pretty much the same. Sorry. So because we have a table and values organized within cells, columns, and ranges, we could reference them with column references and rows. So, and pretty much the same as in Excel with A1, A2, A3, and so on. And the first column corresponds to the column A. Here we have the column B, C, D, etc. But because we don't have those letters and numbers visible inside that table, it's a bit difficult. We would all the time look at column A, then we have, okay, 1, this is our title, column 1, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we have B, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be a bit complicated. For that, we can use the keyword above. So we are going to sum what's above. And the number format should be 0, that's fine. We click OK and we hope it works. So now we can restrict editing of our document and test that it works correctly as expected. Then once we confirm that this works as expected, we'll continue with the other fields on the right side. Okay, so from the developer tab, we are going to restrict editing of that document. And we are going to editing restriction, allow only this type of editing in the document. We click on that and we choose filling in forms, And what did I limit formatting? Limit I should be able to click on that. Why it's not possible? I should be able to edit that. String editing. Let's display again. Where do it's in review? Okay. Okay, here I have. What did I do wrong? I should be able to. Oh yeah. Okay, now I'm in design mode. Yeah, if I remove design mode, you see now it works. Okay. So if you are in design mode, make sure you turn off design mode so that you can start enforcing protection. I had forgotten that. So in that case, okay, just for the demo, I don't need especially a password, okay, just to make sure it works correctly and there is no security issue with that document. So just want, okay, whatever I type here, we should have the first letter of each word capitalized, okay, if I made it correctly. So name of company, again I validate with the tab key, okay, to move from one field to the other field, and it has worked. Okay, each letter, each first character of each word is capitalized as we want it. Okay, so that's cool. Number, we can type, okay, number 2, the date, okay, we are going to say we are the 30 10 20, and remember the format that we applied to that date. Now the date should display as 30 hyphen oct hyphen and 20. Okay, so I validate with the tab key to exit that field and move to the next field. And notice that when I say exit, you remember that one of the properties of that form field was to apply a certain macro on entry or on exit. So currently we are within that field, and I'm going to exit that field with the tab key. So I'm moving from that field to another field. So if we had a macro activated on that field on exit, that's when I exit, that the macro would run. But okay, we don't have any macro, right? So let's look at that value inside and how it's going to be formatted. And it has worked correctly. Wonderful. So now we have, okay, product A, and I use the tab key. Remember that this one we applied a different formatting, which was actually first capitalized, first capitalized, I don't remember what's the term. We would expect, okay, just the first letter of the sentence to be capitalized. So my A shouldn't be capitalized. Okay, so I validate with the tab key and it works as expected. Wonderful. So now I'm going to add the quantity 5. Wonderful. So now I'm going to add the quantity 5, and I would expect that field below to compute that. So currently it should display 5. So I use the tab key, I hit the tab key, and wonderful, it has computed 5. Great. Let's move quickly. And I pass those fields. I believe those fields are going to work equally as this one. I just want to make sure that if I add, let's say 15, it computes to 20, and that works. Perfect, right? So those fields are working. Now we are going to do the same for that. Well, this one are also working correctly. Okay, it formats with the 1000 separator. That's great. 45, and it formats as the 1000 separator. Great. Those fields are working very well. Now I just need to add a function, a calculation here, to calculate the product of what's on the left for all those fields. And here I need to stop the protection. I'm going to double click on that, and I need here a calculation. That calculation should be an expression being equal to the product of what's on the left. So the function is going to reference to what's on the left. And I could actually use also cell references. I'm going to show you that it works equally, but just okay, it's a bit more work. We need to identify, this is the first column, so column A, column B, column C. So B, it's 1, and B2, and this is C2. So I could say B2, and the same naming convention as in Excel. So B2 colon C2, to say to Excel that I want to compute from B2 to C2. Okay, so I'm going to validate that. And now, well, 5 times 20,000, because I have already some values in the quantity and unit cost, Word returns, okay, the computation of 5 and 20,000, okay, which obtain 100,000. So we can do like this. We can do also calculation, okay, product. We could do also, we don't need to type product, okay. We could do also, so this is B2, this is B3, okay, this is C3. So B2 times C3, we could write it also like this. So B2 times C, so actually it should be C3, okay, yeah. C3 times B3, C3, okay, B3, C3, okay. The resulting format should be 1000 separator like this, and that's good. And okay, and it works equally. Okay, so 15 times 45,000. Most probably that's correct. Okay, so it's most probably correct. All right, so 675,000. All right, so it works also. But again, the fastest way of doing that is using product, so a calculation equal product left. Okay, so product and whatever it's on the left, we are going to calculate the product of whatever is on the left. So whatever is on the left of that cell is all those. So again, it's going to consider also the particular or the product name, the quantity and the unit cost, but because this is text and this is valued as nothing, it will be ignored by the function and it will return the product of those two. Okay, so we'll also for sure confirm that it works correctly as expected. So we do that now, we have 0. Okay, let's enforce the protection, and again we are going to test that it works correctly. So we are okay, so we have our product, so sum, let's type without any capitalization, so all lowercase, so some other product, and as soon as I validate, I should have my S capitalized and not the rest. So I validate, S capitalized, not the rest. Very good. So 15, 20, and yet another. I validate with the tab key. I enter 20 and I enter 100,000. So 100,000 will make it a bit easier for us to evaluate that it works correctly. 100,000 times 20, we should obtain 2 million if my calculation is correct. And yes, whoopee, I calculated correctly 2 million, and that works correctly, pretty fine. So here we had product left. Okay, so we calculated the product of whatever's on the left, and we can see that even we have some text here, it's completely ignored, and Word calculates only what's represented as numbers, so 20 times 100,000. Of course, you could say it's dangerous because if you have some product numbers, you would potentially include some product numbers here. But if you had a product number, I would highly suggest you keep the field as text anyway. Okay, very important. Okay. All right, so now let's make sure that we continue that. So the advantage of having product left here is that we can very easily copy and paste it. So we Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. So now it looks like it's computing what's up there, but no, okay. We are going to select that, and to force calculation we use F9, and it's the same function key as in Excel. In Excel, if you want to manually process calculation, you would use F9. So in Word it's the same as well. If you want to manually process some calculation, F9. Now it has reset to 0 because it has forced that field to calculate the product of what's on the left, and as on the left side there is nothing, it returns 0. Okay, that makes sense. Now we need to make sure that this one calculates the sum of what's above. So we use calculation, we use the expression sum above. So again, those keywords like above and left make it very easy to obtain what we want. Otherwise we would need to create the sum of using cell references. Again, A, B, C, D. This is 1, 2, so D2 to D3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So D2 to D7. So we would need to write D2 colon and D7, right? So we would need to type it like this, but dangerous also because if you want to insert a row with the function referencing cells, it would not take into consideration an inserted row. It would still calculate D2 to D7. So if you had like 8 rows, that function wouldn't work. So it's very practical with the keyword above, because whatever you insert, you could insert 2 rows, it will still create the sum of what's above, no matter how many rows you have. So we validate that, and we have it. So actually we did not calculate. You see that we did not click calculate on exit, so we are going to see that it computes anyway correctly. But those fields shouldn't be touched by the user, so we don't have access to fill in enable. It shouldn't be enabled, and that's correct, that's fine. Okay, the user shouldn't be interacting with that, so it's actually great and non-accessible by default. Okay, so let's and start enforcing protection and make sure that it all works company. So let's reset our form. Can we reset it? Control A F9. Okay, so Control A F9 will reset everything to 0 to nothing. Okay, and force calculation, but as we have 0, everything is at 0. All right, so we have our invoice template that we have created. Now, once we enforce protection and restrict editing, only the grade fields that we have inserted inside can be used to fill our form. So we have some company names here, some company name. Not that I capitalize the first letter, but not the rest. But as we enforce that property in our field to capitalize each first letter of each word, as soon as validate, it formats it correctly. My invoice number is number 5. Let's say that I wanted to type, okay, 5 inv. It doesn't work. It doesn't take text because we have restricted the type of that field to a number, so it can only access numbers 5 and not the in or whatever I've put inside there. Date, we should enter our date properly as a date. Okay, so okay, 2020, okay, 2020, okay, 30/10/2020. That will work. I validate with the tab key and Word formats it as we wanted it to be. Here we have my first product, so first product. Note that I did not capitalize the first letter, but because we formatted that field, as soon as I validate, now it contains the right formatting. So 20 the quantity, I validate, it's calculated here, calculated there, very good, perfect. For 15,000 shillings, I validate, it calculates 300,000 as well, perfect. Next, my second product, we have 30 quantity. The unit cost is 12,000 or 102,000. I wrote, okay. We validate that with the tab key and it calculates it automatically. Wonderful, that's great. All that has been calculated. Fantastic. 3,360,000, which is the sum of 300 and 3,060,000. Let's say I want to give a bit space and I have some other product here. I use the tab key to navigate from one field to another field. I have 60 quantities and the unit cost is 85,000 and I validate and it computes that value correctly. So the product of 60 times 85,000. And we have the sum of all what's above of all the different amounts displayed here with 8,460,000. All right, this works very well. And that's how we can create an invoice inside Word, and even including calculation and restricting the user to interact with those calculations and keep our invoice very professional. We can even format that field to display UGX or USH, whatever. Well, again, we can customize this the way we want. So if we wanted to have UGX instead, we can display that as UGX, and the formatting is exactly the same syntax as we would have inside Excel. So the first part within before the semicolon represent the positive numbers, then after the semicolon it represents the negative number, and we could add also zero value, how it should be formatted, the zero value, and text if we had text as well. So let's keep it simple as well. So for now, and imagine if we had negative value, it would be formatted between bracket, and we have the UG that display before the numbers. Okay. Great, that's it. We have created our invoice. Okay, it's not as dynamic as the first one as we did, but okay, it's already pretty good. It's a very good start. We have created our invoice. We inserted some form fields. We formatted the form fields to accept text only, and format the text entered with a capital letter, you know, proper case or whatever they call it. Date restricted to date only. We have seen, okay, it's very important, format date correctly so that it's being recognized as a date. Restrict to a number, and we cannot enter text when we have numbers. Performing calculation as well. Okay, so the product of what's on the left and the sum of what's above as well, with a specific formatting, displaying the value with the comma separator, and the currency displayed at the beginning as well. Awesome. Wow, we did it. All right, it's time. Okay, we have spent about an hour together. A great time. We have created our invoice. Now I hope I have convinced you to create invoices inside Word and leave Excel aside. So okay, the next step, okay, would be to use mailings and connect your so we will need to stop protection mailing. So the next step would be, okay, to connect your Word document with some recipient. So we could use an existing list, locate our Excel file. So here we can choose any data source. So we have, okay, Excel are part of the data source we can connect to. So we can connect to an Excel file and use values fields that we would have within an Excel file. So let's say you want to invoice a certain customer, we could then, okay, replace it here with the name of the customer that we want to invoice, for which name would be present in a specific list inside Excel, and all values purchased by that very customers inside here as well. So we can enrich our document with fields that we have available from the Insert tab, Quick Parts, and within the Quick Parts we have well, access to the document properties, so not the custom one but the classic one, and then we have fields as well that we can insert. Here we can insert a field, but right now I cannot access it. Okay, so Insert tab, Quick Part, Field. Now I can access it. Okay, yeah, because I had everything selected before. So we could insert fields, and we have access to formulas, also advanced, whatever that means, ask, author, but that could be for another day, to go through all the different fields that are available to create very dynamic documents and very powerful documents. There are many things that can be used to create very powerful documents. All right, very good. Okay, great. I thought you enjoyed the session. Just having a quick look if we have any specific message. Otherwise, I guess we are going to end the session. If you have any question, please feel free to tell me, and I will be happy to answer them. Anyway, this is going to be recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank also very much Marvin Sekandi for this great collaboration. He's giving me always a very okay, I like words because it's really very good and very helpful to set up all those meetings, and I really want to appreciate his collaboration, input, friendship, and work with him. So Marvin Sekandi from Vinix Software School. He's also the administrator of the Excel WhatsApp group in Uganda, who is a great supporter for all those events. And it is mainly thanks to him that that those events exist, because quite often I'm very busy, and it's not that I especially forget to put in place those events, but yeah, it takes a little bit time to set them up, and sometimes, okay, when the day is very busy, it's a bit difficult. So again, a big thank you to Marvin Sekandi for helping us setting up all the things, and for his great collaboration, encouragement, and motivation. All right, great. Okay, we are done with that. So if you have any specific request, well, you know where to ask. You send in the chat, send in the email, subscribe to that group. Okay, you can always register with us, and keep informed and be aware of what's happening and when it's happening, and when to access the things. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for watching and being with us tonight. This is the end of this session. I wish you a very good evening and a wonderful weekend. All right. Thanks.